The musky air stunk his nose. It was a new smell for the thief. Yes, a thief. There is no need to sugarcoat what he is. A thief is what he was, and a damn good one at that. You need a chest opened? Well, there you go. You want to get into that dwarven vault? Pfft, easy. You want that noble's coffers pilfered? No problem. Just don't try running off with your daughter. That never goes well. Yes, a thief. The perfect tool for this adventure. They had been asked to explore an ancient ruin. A landslide from last moon had exposed the opening to the lost city. Who knew what was inside? But few wealthy investors wanted to find out. He would be lying to say that he wasn't curious too. Usually a thief would work alone or in a pair. But today he had a full party. They peered at the stone arch. If it had been decorated, it had long since been washed away. Crawling on the floor like a lizard, the thief began his job. Who knows what was inside? He didn't just want to find out what, he also wanted to live to tell of it. His fingers picked at every stone tile that covered the floor. Any one of them could have been a trap. A pressure plate that would collapse the ceiling down, or let a giant stone ball roll down on top of them. This thief had seen all sorts, and the only reason he still had his head was because he was overly cautious. Some would say too cautious, but hey, he was alive, and others weren't. Who would you rather follow? It was slow, agonizingly so. They all coated in dust and mud. He had to work his knife through every crevice to be sure. It had been 20 minutes, and they'd gone half as many feet. Though his companions weren't annoyed. All of them, but one. Directly behind the thief was their paladin, a crusader of the church. You would normally not expect someone like him and the thief to be such close friends, but you'd be surprised how often a shadow is needed to help out the light. With absolute trust, the paladin kept his mace drawn and his shield ready. He would act in an instant. Behind them was the cleric and a mage. Neither of the thief had met before, but the crusader had vouched for them, and that was usually enough. Still, he did investigate them. Both were adventurers, with no ties to people the thief wanted to avoid. However, that didn't stop him from covering his face with a mask. You can never be too careful. It was their last member that put him on edge. The ruins were near the borders, and the barbarians in the mountains would accuse the adventurers of theft. Ha ha ha! Comical, isn't it? Still, bringing one of them was a safety precaution. A bad one, he thought personally. She wasn't as big as some of her compatriots, though still stronger than most. She shifted her oversized sword from one shoulder to the other. Oi! Stabby stabby McMaskface! Move it! She barked. We'll move when it's safe, the paladin defended. I want to stay alive, and if you follow him, he'll save yours too. Bah! Stupid people living in their comfy houses. I'm surprised you even know how to get up and face the sun in the morning. How do you know that floor isn't a mimic? The paladin chastised her. You could step on it, and it would gobble you up before you could swing that sword. Poof, you're dead. Now! The thief yelled as he jerked his hand back. Without a thought, the paladin slammed his shield down, barely missing the thief's fingers. It was just in time as flames illuminated the hall. The heat would have turned anything to ash, if not for the enchanted metal and the man behind it. That is why he is going so slow, the crusader grunted. No one spoke after that. The thief nodded his respect and thanks to his old comrade. Without a word, he continued to search each and every stone. The first trap had been sprung. Where was the second? After what the barbarian thought was a long time, they found themselves at the cusp of a large room. Bones littered the floor as if it had been the den of some large predator. A dire wolf pack, perhaps? If it was, it would be dead. Too many bones in here for this to be a recent den. Maybe one from before the ruins had been buried. The two old friends exchanged looks, and the thief turned towards the door. No! He screamed as he realized that he had screwed up. This was the trap. He rushed back to the door in a panic as the barbarian stormed into the middle of the room. That is when everything turned for the worse. A heavy steel grate dropped out of the ceiling to block the door, its weight driving it into the ground. The stone tiles cracking under the force. At that moment, a clattering noise echoed through the room as the bones rose up. They quickly formed into legions of skeletons. Each carried rusty weapons and broken shields. It was clear that the adventurers outgeared them. That wasn't their strength. Ha ha ha! Finally some action, cackled the barbarian. Without waiting for others, she charged forward. Roaring like a lion, she swung her sword down. The bones scattered instantly while the skull bounced on the floor. That was nothing, she smirked. and that was her last mistake. The skeleton she had just chopped down rose back up and drove its rusty blade into her throat. She coughed and collapsed to the ground. Wailing, the cleric wove her spell. Before she could finish, the skeletons charged her. The paladin slammed his shield into their attackers and threw them back. Around him, the others moved into position. The thief looked around. This was bad, very bad. His daggers weren't much use here. Everywhere he looked, there were skeletons. They were outnumbered 20 to 1. This was bad. Well, this isn't good for our adventuring party. Hello, and welcome back to Mythical Phylogeny. I am Jason Diargos, your guide. Let's sit down and talk for a bit, and maybe we can save their lives. If not, they may be joining their foes. Skeletons, bones and nothing more. While the shapes of the skeletons vary, they are consistent. There is no change in the number of bones, even between different species. But they tell us so many things. Each bone has markers which result from the pull of the muscles. This is part of Wolf's Law, where bone deposits are laid down in areas from tension from muscle. From this, you can tell what sort of life a person has lived just by looking at their bones. The skull and pelvis can even determine the age and gender of a person. You can look at the fused bones in the teeth for more information. But you aren't here for that, are you? We are here to talk about the risen skeletons. They aren't living creatures. Nope. They are as dead as a doornail. Except they are undead. What is that? I won't argue semantics here. The only thing going on is the bones are moving as if they were still alive. How? Life leaves a residue on the bones, just like the muscles. Necromancy is able to mimic and innovate these connections. Many are dead are marked by faint glow, but it isn't uniform. It is the strongest around those bony deposits and mimics muscles and nerves. What's more is these skeletons can be made from the remains of multiple individuals, or even different species. These bones are not of the living. They are dry and susceptible to fractures. They even belong to those who have perished centuries before you were born. Well, this is a shorter section than usual, but it is to be expected with some foes. But we already know so much about bones and skeletons. They aren't that unique. The true topic of skeletons is how they rise. There are two main ways that they may become the undead. Of course, a necromancer willing it is the most obvious. The magic innervates the soul residue and mimics the muscle functions. Plain and simple. They may use a focus to channel the spells, like a staff or an idol. Yet there is another source. Those that rise spontaneously. Why is that? I have argued with a cleric companion, the Adoran, on this very topic. Why do skeletons rise on their own? We have come to a few ideas. The first is when a massive number of deaths occur in one location, the souls of the departed may linger, with their final motions being ones of distress and anger, a dangerous mixture. This will leave a negative energy, the sort of energy found in necromancy, and perfect for imprinting on the latent emotions onto the skeleton. Well, here is where things get fun for us adventurers. Let's start with melee combat against these skeletons. For the most part, this will be their bread and butter. Unless made from a creature with natural armaments, skeletons won't have any. But since they can use tools such as swords and pitchforks, never underestimate the trusty pitchfork. It is the perfect tool for sticking a person in their gut. Particularly yours if you aren't careful. This is why you should face a risen skeleton as if you're facing down another person. Use the same armor you would for a human foe, but weapons are different. Archers. Well, you are pointless here. Dead weight. I would even waste my time picking up an arrow. You'd be better at just swinging the bow around like a staff than firing your arrows. Arrows work best to stab people from long range, but no organs to stab. Only bones to break. Yes, break. Smash them into dust with something heavy, like a mace, a staff, or a good shield. If you are a martial artist, you can punch and kick. But be wary of joint locks. While you can break bones this way, a skeleton can always disarticulate a joint to escape. This is dangerous. A skeleton can grab you with just a hand, but it wouldn't give it any leverage to incapacitate you. Still, a hand crawling up your face and sticking a finger in your nose or eyes definitely is a problem. There is another way to fight. Magic. Oh, there is so much you can do with magic when fighting skeletons. We shall begin with holy magic. This sort of magic exudes a positive energy which directly opposes that of necromancy and is potent against it. A cleric, a priest, a druid, or a paladin are indispensable here. Bring them with you. This is why most healing spells also will damage the undead. What if you don't have a party of such? Well, most temples I know will sell holy water. Pure water can be used as a catalyst to hold this positive energy. Dousing the undead will disperse the magic holding it together. Yeah, is this the best you can do? A glorified water balloon fight? Oh, no. I'd rather lure them into a trap. Better to spring the trap than to have one sprung on you, yes? If you use a spell to conjure water, you can coat the floor and bless it. The blessing may not last as long on the ground, but you shouldn't need long. Create a holy marsh and trap them in. Let them get stuck and burn them away. And what happens if you want to preserve the holy blessing? Do you know any frost or ice magic? Ever hear of holy ice? What a wonderful weapon. It is too brittle to use in direct combat against even rusted swords. Still, holy ice weapons can be very effective against the undead. Truly, since undead are raised by magic, inflicting damage isn't always the best way forward. If you have a mage that is an expert in dispelling magic, congratulations. You've got the best counter available. With one spell, you can drop a dozen skeletons at once. You can unwind the spell holding them together, and they all drop instantly. I also would suggest using magic or catapults to fling rocks and other dense objects to break the bones. Or best yet, hit the skeleton with another skeleton. Brilliant, absolutely brilliant. Magic is the best tool here. Honestly, the risen skeletons aren't that strong. If I would have to rank them, I would only give them a 2 out of 10 for difficulty. First question, are you okay with grave robbing? That is what we are doing here. When looting the risen skeletons, you are a grave robber. I'm sorry if that's a problem for our more noble party members. You'll have to suffice on the honor of your good deeds. But if you aren't, then you can collect any jewels or ornaments found on the remains of the dead. But do you remember one of the causes of the risen dead? A necromancer? Who knows what treasures a powerful necromancer may have? But they are dangerous, and we shall address them at a later date. Still, a powerful necromancer would surely have some prized magical artifacts on them. A powerful focus or a staff, but if you're lucky, books. Lost arts that schools of magic may be willing to buy off you. Years of picking out the most treasured valuables aided him in his search. Was there a source to the spell? A caster. All here were dead. But, yes, there it is. Sitting on an altar in the back of the room glowed a single violet crystal. He could get there in a second, if only he could dodge through the shambling skeletons. Should he go after it? He looked at his companions. They were skilled with their own magic, but there were so many skeletons. The casters wouldn't have much time to work their magic. Barbarian down? This was going to be difficult. Cleric, prepare an exorcism, the paladin instructed as he moved his body to work as a shield for his less armored companions. Bones and blades struck his heavy armor, but he refused to yield. Like a wall, he guarded them. Right, she chirped as she pressed her back against the wall. We'll cover you. So it was decided, that was the plan. A rusty blade came down on the thief, and he parried it with his short dagger. He stepped forward and slammed his elbow into the skull, causing it to bounce off. Jumping back, he dodged the counterattack from the headless body. A strong kick from his boot caved in the ribcage before he jumped further away. How much longer? Hold a little longer. A dozen stones shot outward at the mage's behest, and the bones crumbled. Momentarily, there was an opening. The thief could see the crystal clearly. The spell's catalyst. He could see it, and maybe even get to it. All he had to do was dash forward. His instincts told him to go for it. He could make it in a second. No! He jumped back as the sword came crashing down on him. If he had gone, his head would be missing. Now! A wave of holy magic washed over the room. All the skeletons dropped to the ground as if they were puppets with their strings cut. The clattering bones lasted a while longer. It was finished. All of them were defeated. That was fun, the paladin exhaled. It was a pitiful attempt to lighten the grim mood. Can you resurrect the barbarian? No, the cleric mourned with one look. The body was too damaged. That was obvious from the first glance. That was the danger of being an adventurer. You're always a single mistake away from death. Alright, we'll need to move carefully. It's going to get harder with our party down one. The thief made his way over to the gleaming gem. It was the size of his fist and sat on a tiny pedestal. A smile played over the haggard face. It was a trap. The whole thing was set on a pressure plate. If he had tried to play the hero, he would have set it off. That could have been close, he thought, as he disarmed the trap and destroyed the crystal. Right, the thief got down on the floor and started his survey work again. Every tile and every inch. We couldn't risk a second mistake. Thank you for coming today, aspiring adventurers. Please return next time, where we will be beating the noble centaurs. Until then, be careful and safe travels.